Greetings, my comic book family. How are you all? Welcome back to the Gen X Comic Con, and I hope you have enjoyed it so far. When I started this con over a year ago, I was hopeful to connect with some of you amazing folks, including our amazing creatives. And so I was a little nervous. I was like, I'm nobody in the business. How are they going to jump in and say hi and so on and so forth? How do I get them to this con, a virtual con at the least? So a year later, I'm amazed for all the support, thankful for all the support and love for these cons. And I try to outdo myself every time that we do it. So this has been months and probably like 6 months, years in the making. Well, we have been swinging the fences today, and I'm thankful that we're hitting homers. And as you can see, my sister Ebony Keys could not get out here today. She had other commitments during this recording, and I like to at least fill her big shoes. I know this was an important interview she wanted to have, but I hope I do you proud, sis. We are hoping to have Stephanie back again for the Back to Basics comic book podcast very soon and ensure that this meeting occurs because I need my sister to meet Stephanie. So in a con first, I recruited someone special to me to interview this next guest. And like I had said, she is very special. I'd like to introduce my partner in crime and what I call geek adjacent. So many of you all who have partners, some of them are geeks and some of them may not be. So they end up loving you nonetheless. So this is my geek adjacent love of my life and wife, Mrs. Rakia. Hey, babe, thanks for helping me out today.
No problem. So happy to be with you and with all of you. So I am a geek adjacent. I've learned so much from my wonderful husband, GenX, about this world of just amazing comics and I have a few favorites myself. Keep that close to the vest until I'm with you a little longer, but it's been wonderful, and I'm just excited to be with you all today.
Awesome. So let's do this because I want to make sure that everyone can kind of jump into the content. Our next guest graduated from the University of Illinois at Chicago and entering a career in scientific research, as we all do. Stephanie Williams pivoted to pursue her childhood dream of writing comic books when she became a mom. She is a comic book historian and has written for notable publications such as Sci-Fi Fangirls, Marvel, the AV Club, Nerdist, Den of Geek, and Rotten Tomatoes. She now has two web comics, Parenthood Activate and But What If Though, in addition to Living Heroes on Kickstarter. Her writing credentials include Marvel Voices Legacy, Wonder Woman Black and Gold, Nubia and the Amazons, Trial of the Amazons, Nubia Coronation Special, Nubia Queen of the Amazons, and Wakanda, and more. And Stephanie enjoys spending time with her husband and son when she isn't reading or writing comics. She is quoted by saying, and I love this quote, I hope whatever you create today, you find the joy in it. I hope you don't get in your own way because of fear. Your creation, whatever it is, will find those who need it. You have to release it to be found, though. All right. So let's welcome Stephanie Williams. We're going to pull you into the stream. Everybody give rounds of applause. Yes, indeed. Awesome. Awesome. Well, how you doing, Stephanie?
I am doing well. How are you guys today?
Great.
Doing wonderful.
Let me coordinate here and make sure we can all see each other, right? So thank you so much for supporting me in this con and our community overall. Really excited to have you here. If you can't really tell, I'm fanboying a little bit. I'm sweating here. I'm just like, I gotta make sure I'm doing my due diligence. But are you ready to jump in? We're just gonna go ahead and ask questions. But part of the questions is, to be quite honest, we like to make sure that people know who you are as a person. So we like to start our show with getting to know you. So I'm gonna have Rakia ask the first question.
Hello, Stephanie. So happy to have you with us.
Hey.
So first, I'd like to ask, we like to start, our show off, like Joe said, Gen X said, by, getting to know you, with a simple question. So I'd just like to know, what's your story? How did
I get here?
come?
Yeah. That is a good one because I am still trying to figured that out because it didn't happen overnight, but sometimes it feels like it did. So I'll skip ahead, but as far as my comic origin story, I fell in love with comics via the laundromat. The laundromat that we would sometimes go to when our washer and dryer wasn't working, they had a Marvel versus Capcom game that I played a lot. And always mained at Storm. So I think the owner probably got tired of hearing Typhoon, Typhoon repeatedly. Um, and then from there, discovered the X-Men through the animated TV show and everything. But it wasn't until like I had went to the thrift store with my grandmother back when you could kind of still find comics there, that I found, I think it was Avengers 371. All I know is that it was in the middle of a kind of like this throuple that they had going on between Cersei and Black Knight and Crystal. And I was like, oh, wait, this is kind of like, The Young and the Restless, General Hospital, all those things that my grandmother and my mom love watching. And I was like, oh, but they're just superheroes. So that's kind of where things picked off, or picked up, I should say. And then I got into Archie comics because those were at the grocery store, easy to get into the cart or sneak into the cart as I did until my mom called me. I was like, I know you're putting these in here. It's okay. You're reading them. It's fine. Just like hand me the book. So just a lot of that and just other nerdy things. I was huge Pokemon enthusiast, cards, the game, everything. So fast forward to like college, still kind of getting into like these fandoms, doing like fanfic and everything, and life. So I thought I wanted to be a doctor, didn't go that route. I did still love science, so I went into research because it was nice. I could still help people, but do it from the shadows, which is kind of like the Batman of it all. And got my first job working as an electron microscopist, like my first big girl job, and was doing that. And I was okay. I wasn't content. I thought I wanted to go and further and get my PhD, but life had other plans. So after I had my son, I was dealing with some postpartum depression. And I remember one of the things that the nurse practitioner kind of mentioned, she's like, it's terrible, right? Like there's nothing wrong with you. This is just what you're going through. You're not, a terrible person, a terrible mother, or anything like that. It's just something that you're dealing with. But what is it that I don't know, kind of like centered you and brought you happiness prior to, jumping to this whirlwind that is parenthood. And one of those things was comics, and I love a sci-fi, so things like Terminator, Alien, and everything. So I started blogging, and I would talk about parenthood through the lens of these things that I really enjoyed. So kind of, talking about Terminator, talking about Alien, the comics and stuff like that, and just kind of relating that to everything that I was going through as far as like motherhood and parenthood was concerned. And I started podcasting, similar to what you all do now. And from there, did this podcast called Misty Knight's Uninformed Afro. We focused on Black superheroines because outside of, your Storm, maybe if you were lucky, Catwoman, depending on like what iteration, a lot of people weren't really familiar with a ton of Black superheroines. So we took a academic approach to it because science background, love research, so it just kind of makes sense. Once that podcast dissolved, I had all this research that I didn't know what to do with it, and I don't know. Ended up pitching to Sci-Fi Fangirls. First piece was the evolution of the Dora Milaje from comics to movies, because the Black Panther had came out that year, 2018, and things just picked up from there. I started writing, so still working full time, and then writing when I got
I
off
was going
work.
to ask you that.
Yeah, so or sometimes writing while I was at work in between experiments and stuff, and it was like really getting into it. I was always talking about comics, kind of doing like these character pieces and profiles, and the creative in me still wanted to produce my own. So kind of skipping around here, but like a lot of people knew me for my Twitter account, which I would just take these X-Men memes or make these X-Men memes. So using still shots from X-Men 92, Spider-Man, Justice League Unlimited, and kind of fashioning these stories around these still shots. So I think that's probably where I kind of honed a little bit of my comic writing skills unprofessionally. So I don't know. One day I was just like, yeah, it's either now or never, right? So reached out to an artist who I was a big fan of, Sarah Macklin, and that's kind of how Parenthood Activate came to be. All I could afford was a page, and Sunday Funnies were something that I always enjoyed. So it was very similar to that to me, where instead of a comic strip, it was a page, and I just had like a page to tell a story. So from there, But What If Though happened, and out of But What If Though came Living Heroes, which I don't want to say the rest is history, but once that was funded, I don't know, things just really started to change. And next thing I knew, I was writing my first official comic for Marvel with Marvel Voices Legacy. And then the week that came out, I spoke to the editor at DC about writing some Amazons. I had no idea I was going to be writing Nubia, but that ended up happening, and it has been off to the races since then.
You've been busy. You've been really busy.
And this is your full time now. This is what you do?
It's full time now. Since May 2021, I have been writing just creatively, and writing other stuff in general full time. I left the hospital, I want to say in January 2019. Then kind of worked like a little kind of this logistical work from home type of job, and that did not last long. And I think I drove Lyft for a little while to just kind of pay for the comics. My husband, I have to give him just all his flowers, because when I left the one job, he was like, maybe don't try to go back and find anything else. You've been writing. It seems like it has been going very well, and let's just see what happens if you're able to put 110% into this. So I did that. I took it and I ran with it, because I really appreciated that, him believing me in that way. So yeah, so my head's been down working ever since. Yeah.
Well, that is amazing. Chasing your dream and just continuing to just push and having that support. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So something that you did talk about before I ask you the next question is you talked about kind of that journey, and particularly everything you were going through, life period, right? How did you stay focused during that time to kind of say, all right, I'm gonna do this writing full time and or even part time, right?
Yeah, I think it was the fact that I knew that the job that I have just wasn't bring me any type of fulfillment. And it's not that I didn't like the actual job itself, it was the atmosphere. My boss sucked, to put it plainly. And it got to a point where it was really affecting my mental health. So that writing portion was probably really what kind of kept me a little bit sane. Because when I think back on that time, I don't know how I was doing it. So still juggling, parenthood, this job, writing, research, so that I can write stuff that makes sense. And, it actually look as though like somebody had put something into it, pitching, all of these things. I think what just kind of kept me going was the fact that I knew that eventually, I didn't know when, but this was something that I wanted to make a full transition to if the opportunity arrived. So it's really a stay ready so you don't have to get ready, so that whenever the opportunity came, that someone was like, hey, do you have work to show for blah, blah, blah. I've spoken to this editor and they're interested, and they want to see some samples that like I had that. And also knew that I needed to sharpen my writing abilities too, hone my voice, because I didn't go to school for creative writing. I would have loved to, but I grew up in a household where it's kind of like, can you make a living being a creative? I don't know. Also found out you can't really make a living in science either, depending on what industry you're in. So it was all relative, and I think it was just, for me, whenever I've set my mind to anything, I got to see it all the way through. So I think that a lot of factors kind of poured into that, but it was really more so me knowing that if this was going to be my escape, then I need to make sure that I was doing everything that I could to make sure that it panned out.
I forgot to ask you, where's your hometown?
So I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, but I've been living in Charlotte, North Carolina for the last decade now.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
We were just there.
That's
awesome. Well, so tell us about your first job in the industry. How did you get there? What was like, what did you learn? What were some takeaways?
So my very first official writing gig was with Marvel. It was Marvel Voices Legacy #1, and that came out in 2021. It was a 2-page story. That was my first time like working with editors and just getting the whole feel. And I just said, okay, so whatever notes they give, I'm going to listen to them and I'm going to make sure that I'm able to apply them later. And it went pretty smoothly. I almost kind of talked myself out of doing like writing a story that I wrote. So I wrote a story that kind of silly in nature, but that's kind of comics, right? It's Monica Rambeau, her mom, She-Hulk, and Thor at a grocery store, and Monica's mom leaves them at the cash register. She walks away to go get some pet milk. And it's really silly, but at the same time, like that's pretty stressful, right? Like your parents or whoever you're shopping with leaving you at the front, even if you do have the money, it's like, hey, but like you were shopping, like come pay for your stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always been funny to me that superheroes in general, sometimes, they might be a little broke. So the fact that, Thor may be rich in Asgard, but money doesn't translate like that when he's here on Earth. She-Hulk, she's a lawyer, but, she was saying, I got debt still, so I'm paying that off. I don't have any coin either. And then Monica just being Monica and like, hey, mom, come pay for your stuff. So it was a 2-page story. And they asked me who I wanted to write, and Monica Rambeau was my first pick. That she's always been one of my favorite superheroes, and I was gonna write something really serious, but then I thought about it and I was like, well, no. They reached out to me. This is kind of like an extension of Living Heroes, but in official capacity. So I was like, let me keep this energy and do what it is that I like to do, which is just kind of remind folks that these heroes, as powerful as they are, like they're still human or
Yeah.
human adjacent in some type of way. So that's how that experience was. And the 2 editors that reached out to me for that, I've worked with since. Sarah Brunstad, I've worked with her extensively on like the Family Snick, and also the new character that I just created for Marvel, the new Nightshade, Logan Lewis, and Will
Mhm.
Moss. Later the following year reached out to me to write Wakanda #1. So
Mhm.
I would hope that they had a pleasant experience working with me since they reached back out for more work.
Well, yeah, I was about to say you're busy, so something went well. They
Yeah.
loved you, and obviously your writing speaks for itself. Now you talked about Nubia,
Mhm.
my girl Ebony Keys, Miss Ebony Keys. We actually both own the first appearance of Nubia. Can you talk
Yes.
a little bit about Nubia, her origin, a little bit, just for those who I'm asking you to put your historian hat on
Sure.
today, and then writing for those books and what exactly what were some of the things, the highlights for you.
So Nubia was first introduced in the year 1973, and Wonder Woman 204, I believe. That could be wrong. It's either 204 or 205, but she shows up to Themyscira and is, in her full suit of armor, sword and everything, and she's just ready to challenge Diana for what she feels is her rightful place to take the Wonder Woman mantle. And she is right, because she is Diana's sister. She's just a sister that was kidnapped by Mars and kind of raised to be this avatar for him and to raise hell on Themyscira when he felt that she was good enough. So she's sequestered away, living on this floating island full of full of men. Basically, I guess she's kind of like this general there, and she's lonely. She has a moment when she's sitting in her tent, and she's just like, she feels so lonely. And this is kind of after she had a run-in with Diana and they fought for a little bit, then she left. So she comes back, and this is where we get the reveal that she is Diana's twin sister made of darker clay. I don't know how that works, but it worked. And Mars took her, and at first she's this adversary towards Diana, but by the time they get done fighting, they find that they do have a common enemy in Mars, and they kind of band together and work. And the Nubia was like, okay, well, I'm gone, but watch it back, because I might come back to come get this crown. So she does not come back. She doesn't actually come back until a retroactive story in Super Friends 25, where she kind of shows up for she's just kind of there. And then again is Supergirl #9. And it's all in the 70s where she's comatose the whole entire time. And Supergirl is the one who has to go and like find this magical root or whatever to like bring her to consciousness. Then we don't see Nubia again until the 90s. And it's the late 90s at that. She's been, at this point, she's guardian of Doom's Doorway, which I guess is different from Champions of Doom's Doorway. And she's like in the basement. So Diana's in Las Vegas. Nubia comes up from the elevator because her lover has been killed, and her lover has happened to been killed by the same person that Diana's after. So they take that guy down, and then she's gone. She pops up again with an apostrophe. So she has apostrophe in her name. Then she's in some random thing with some gorillas in it. I don't know what was going on there, but that was a thing. And then we get into the early aughts in 2010, and you know, she's got some appearances here and there. Her hair is shorter. You know, she's there. She was in Wonder Woman Year One, not really doing anything. She's not Diana's sister. She's not she doesn't hold any type of special duties or anything like that. She's just this character that happens to be named Nubia. And it wasn't until Future State, so L.L. McKinney wrote that, and we have a Nubia who in the future has, feels forgotten by her people, and has taken the Wonder Woman mantle, and she's kind of there. And then it comes her becoming queen of the Amazons and so on and so forth. But yeah, Nubia didn't really have too much of anything to work with, like at all. And a lot of people, if they knew of her, it was because she was this Black Wonder Woman, or like this Black version of Diana, which I always thought was kind of messed up because, like, she's her own character, or at least she should be. So when it came to writing her, I read her first appearances, because for me, older comics, as problematic as they can be, there's some good stuff there, or at least stuff to kind of build on. So I took some of her personality from that, of this woman who's sure herself, who is a formidable fighter, and has the wherewithal to know what's going on, and then got into George Perez's run of Wonder Woman, because that's where I felt like we really kind of got a personality of who the Amazons were. Because the whole idea to me was, if I can find out who the Amazons are, then we know why Diana is who she is. So then the same would be for Nubia. So there was a fight between Hippolyta and Philippus that happens in that run very early on. I think it's like between issue 14 and 16. Diana goes down into Doom's Doorway, and Hippolyta wants to go get her baby girl. She is concerned. And Philippus, who is, her general, her right-hand woman, and probably roommate, even though they didn't explicitly say that, is like, no, I can't let you do that. You're the queen of the Amazons, and like, I can't allow you to get harmed. And they have this fight, and it's a fight that they have that they don't want to have, because the Amazons, to me, or like what I took away from that, are women who will enact violence if they have to, but they don't. But that's not something that they're doing with glee. It's something they do out of necessity. So they have a fight. Hippolyta doesn't want to beat on Philippus, and Philippus doesn't want to do the same. But Hippolyta is determined to go get her daughter, and Philippus is determined to stop her queen so that the queen is not hurt. Unfortunately, Philippus is knocked out. And Hippolyta is like, I am so sorry, and I hope you can forgive me once you come to. And it was from that exchange. It was very an emotional exchange, and it wasn't even the actual physical fight itself. It was all the dialogue between them that I was like, man, this is it's pretty poignant, and to me is a nice encapsulation of, again, who the Amazons embody. So let me take this, apply it to Nubia and the other Amazons that we introduced in that, and just kind of go from there, because it was important to me and editor and Vita as well, that the Nubia that we established was one that stood on her own, and her value did not depend on her proximity to Diana, because Diana's Diana, Nubia is Nubia, just as Artemis is Artemis, and so on and so forth. They are their own women. They just so happen to all represent the Amazons.
I love it. Thank you for giving that snapshot, because I think a lot of people when they read the comics, especially the older ones, right? They
Yeah.
think that that is sufficient, and especially when they're writing characters, particularly characters of color,
Mhm.
they don't necessarily represent them as well or as powerful or as something that's long standing, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate how you were able to say, "Oh no, we gonna do this right, and we're
Yeah.
gonna make it happen." I just love what you've done with the books. I actually, my LCS, I think I bought all of them.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
seriously, and I remember calling Ebony and saying, "Ebony, do you have these issues? Because I can get them for you right now." And she goes, "Yes, I have them, except for that one. Give me that one." So
He's like the broker. And he'll
I
say,
am.
what do you need? I see this, you know.
I
I
love
know my
it.
people. So it's really cool, and it's great to see, to put the creative and the writer, and really
Mhm.
the I would even say someone who's really on the level, and I'm saying this truthfully, like the George Perez is, that's impactful to me as a
Thank
person of
you.
color, to be able to see that and find representation as an
Mhm.
important piece of the puzzle. But not only that, it's about equity, and showing that these characters, they're just as important. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's not enough to present the characters to have them, exist.
Mhm.
It's how they are, their lives are presented.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking as you were speaking, implicit bias and all of that, even in these characters from 40 years ago. And it's just so unfortunate, the sporadic appearances of Nubia, but you know, hopefully we'll see more of her.
She's
I
queen.
I hope so, and it seems like the work that was put in has paid off in some regard. She's leading the attack on the was it Amazon's attack? Not the one that came out in the early 2000s, but there's a new one. She's the leader of that. She's popped up in the new Wonder Woman run that Tom King is writing, and I think she's going to appear in I think it's called Beast Wars, but I might be thinking of Transformers. But it's a new event that's happening, and it's Beast something, and she's a part of this group that has Valzad, Vixen,
Mm.
I think Batwing's in it. So like she's there, and it looks like she's not going back on the shelf. And like that was my hope, that like we would be able to establish her in a way that no choice but for her to pop up
Yeah,
in other books, because that's important.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
definitely.
let me say this, because whenever they decide to option a Nubia movie, I'm gonna need you to be at the helm, please.
I would hope so. At least consultation would be nice.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Speaking of movies, I'm gonna transition and give my wife this next question, which is
Yeah.
a really dope one.
yeah, I know you're excited about this one.
Yes.
So, would you mind, letting everyone know about your new visual encyclopedia,
Yeah.
Strange and Unsung All-Stars of the DC Universe, with foreword by James Gunn. Congrats, by the
Yeah.
way.
Thank
Congrats. That's
you. I
awesome.
appreciate that. So that one just came out of the blue, sort of, and it didn't really come out of the blue, but it felt like it did. A friend of mine who had been approached for the book was like, this isn't for me, but I know somebody who it is for. And it just so happened to me. And the editor on that book was a fan of Nubia and my other writings that I've done, like these profile pieces and stuff on other characters. And the next thing I knew, I was getting together a list of these strange and unsung characters, which was daunting because there are so many characters in Gotham alone, let alone the
Mm,
entire DC multiverse. So, how do you determine what's strange? How do you determine what's unsung? And like, how do you determine what characters go in this book? Because you're gonna forget some. I mean, after I got
mhm,
done writing this thing, I thought about characters like, oh crap, I forgot all about that one character who's like a mix of a T-Rex and some other stuff. I forgot what his name is, but I was like, oh, he's pretty strange. But oh well, he didn't make it to the book. But it felt like a book that I had been, you know, preparing all this time to write, because again, like a lot of the stuff that I did prior to writing comics professionally was these character profile pieces. So the research portion, I already had like a system and how to kind of go that, because again, like I like to read older stuff. So
Mhm.
a lot of those characters are from either the golden, silver, or bronze age. Some of it, there are some contemporary characters that are in there as well, but it was just really fun to kind of like, go back and have an excuse to read older stuff and my editor actually sent me this computer memory drive or whatever with all of the DC books from the beginning to 2012, which was really cool because I mean, it's like loaded with so much stuff. Actually opened up folders for like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, all of them. Their folders go on forever, and it's just those characters. It's not even
Sorry,
including. No, it's okay.
that's
It's
my
not even
dog.
including. No, sorry. So it's so it was a lot, but it was a lot of fun. I didn't have very long to work on that book, so it
Oh,
felt like a summer project. It definitely felt that way, but you know, we got it done. And early on, he told me that he was gonna see if he can get James Gunn to write the foreword for it. And this is before James Gunn had been announced to be taken over for DC. Had no idea that was going to happen, but when it happened, I was like, "Oh, well, that's a nice little coincidence. That works out pretty well." Because you know it made sense for him to write the forward. It was originally called Heck Yeah Peacemaker in the DC multiverse, and like a bunch of other words.
Wow.
And James Gunn, his thing is like these characters who are either unknown and kind of strange and kind of bringing them to the forefront. So Peacemaker, King Shark, that weird weasel guy, all of these characters, right? So it just worked out, and I had so much fun. The DC universe is just insanely vast. Just the cosmic stuff alone was enough
mhm.
to give me dreams about DC for that whole time. Because I think I was also writing Nubia, the second series, at the same time too, and among a bunch of other stuff. So it was like living and breathing comics.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, were you given a cap about, like, how many you could include or
Yeah,
it
because I
just
think I think the first list I turned in was 200, and the reason why it was 200 characters because I knew that some were just gonna get a no, but I just had to try. And then also, you know, DC had characters themselves that they wanted and felt should be included. So I think in total we came out to like 130 something. It was a
Wow.
lot. Yeah, and that's a
Mhm.
lot of reading. Yeah. Some of them, like some of these characters, I was like a little familiar with already,
Mhm.
so it helped a little bit. But some of them, I either had like never heard of them before, or maybe I did in passing, but I knew nothing about them, so I had to kind of like start from scratch.
Mm.
That's so cool.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
Mr. Gunn, I hope you're listening, watching, doing whatever. Stephanie is the one to help lead the charge. This whole encyclopedia, if we can make this whole encyclopedia part of your universe, like hook it up, make it
Yeah.
happen. That's cool. Well, we're at the tail
Well,
end. I
till
really, I
end,
can't
yeah.
believe, I feel like I could talk to you forever, seriously.
I
So
mean, I guess if
No,
there's,
bring
like
me back for the podcast. I
I
would love
am.
to talk
Oh
more. Yeah.
no, seriously. But we would have a blast with you. You will never want to get off the podcast. That's how awesome.
well, if we can just ask you, what are you currently working on? Can you share?
What
Can
can
you
I
disclose?
share?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That is a good question. Most of it I cannot default can't talk about right now. However, like I think announcements will be named or announced in the coming months. Something that I can talk about that was just recently announced was the Bumblebee origin story that will be in World's Finest annual one that comes out in January. So I'm writing an origin story for Bumblebee, which I'm really excited about because I love Karen. So I'm currently, well, not working on that anymore because I just turned in the script. So whenever I get revisions, if I have any, then I'll be doing that. Um, some stuff that I also just turned in, I guess if I can give any hints, are things that I've talked about extensively. So if you followed me on social media, you know what my interests are and like the stuff that I'm always talking about if I can. A couple of those things I'm writing now. And I have some creator owned stuff on the way. I can't talk anything about that, but I am, you know, building my own sandbox and playing in it. So I'm very excited about that whenever that gets announced. And with publishing, God knows when that'll happen, but I'm hoping like within the next year or so.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Awesome. Well, if people don't know how to connect with you, how can they find you on social?
So, you can still find me on the app formerly known as Twitter, also Instagram and TikTok. This is all the same at is Steph_I_Will. You can always go to my website, whystuff.com. I am launching a newsletter hopefully in December. I'm gonna try, but if anything, it will be up in January because I kind of like need to make that transition anyway. But I'll have information on how you can sign up for that and all the cool stuff that I have on the way that I can't unfortunately talk about right now. But
Oh my
it's really exciting, fun stuff. So I'm very excited and looking forward to it.
Well, we'll stay peeled and see what those exciting things are.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, we have a virtual booth, so I'm going to be making sure that all those connections are able to be made with people and they can sign up for whatever they need to stay
Yeah.
informed about your success. We are so happy and delighted to have you. Now, one last thing, because everybody's making their way to the cons. Are you making any more appearances to the cons?
So I don't know yet. There was a convention that I was going where I got invited to, but unfortunately I won't be going to because I will be in Jamaica taking a nice, much needed vacation during that time. And I would have been Fan Expo in New Orleans. So I am so sad that I cannot go. But unfortunately that trip was already set. Um Other cons, I don't know yet, but
Okay.
I'll get my list. I'm assuming towards the end of December, early January, and then once that is, once I know what that is, and I'll start making those announcements. But I will be doing some more conventions, because I like, it's nice to be able to connect with folks and just kind of talk to them and see what's what.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, not to push
No,
Vegas for obvious reasons, but
well, I listen. If they ever ask, I will be out that way because
okay.
I mean, what a perfect excuse to go to Vegas, right? For
I
a convention,
know.
right?
Yeah, we have a crew and a team called the Flex Fam, and so we had never met before, and we had decided this past year, we
Yeah.
decided in April to meet up in Vegas Comic Con. We had no idea what we
Yeah.
were expecting, and it was such a cool experience.
Mhm.
So it was a really cool con, and also we realized we needed more time to
Yeah.
venture out and do more. So
I
it was
mean,
pretty.
Vegas proper, it's cool, but it's like Nevada. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like explore. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate all the time that you've given us. I
Yeah.
know you're a busy, busy, busy woman. And I can't tell you how I'm happy and sad that Ebony couldn't be here.
I
I
know.
know.
But I'm gonna just tell her, look, we're gonna do the podcast, but go with it because you are literally one of her idols.
I know.
And so I'm glad that you all have contact with each other, and we'll make sure we schedule that. But you've made this virtual con amazing.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. I'm so sorry I can't make it to the actual con itself, but I just want to say thank you for extending your space to, just give me a platform to kind of talk about my things. So
Yes.
just thank you for what you're doing. It is greatly, wildly appreciated. Just definitely from me, but I hope other creators as well, because this is important.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. So that is the end of this session for the con. And everyone, I know you probably are like, I wish I could ask her questions. And guess what? You can. You're just going to have to do it and go into her booth and reach out to her. Let her know that you came to the con so that way she can put an asterisk or at least a star in her email box. As you can hear, Stephanie has a lot on her plate, but she is so giving of her time, and I appreciate you so much more than you know. And so just want to let you know you're part of our family.
Yes.
And I look forward to seeing you at future cons, even as, if you just wanted to stroll through the virtual con or even physical con in the future. I think it's a great opportunity for people to basically get not only your SIG, but also to just really commiserate with you as a person. And that's why I wanted to interview you, because you're an amazing creative and an
Thank
amazing
you.
woman,
Mhm.
amazing mother, and you've done it all. So I'm so
Thank
proud of you.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Definitely,
Oh,
definitely happy that you're taking up space. Just wanted to
I'm
say that.
trying my best. But real quick, I almost forgot. If you go to my coffee account, so if you go to my Instagram or my Twitter account, there should be a link tree that'll take you to that. You can actually purchase I have books on there for sale that I'll sign it for you, mail it out and everything. That's both Nubia series and then also the Strange Unsung Heroes. I gotta put that up today, but you can purchase that. I'll sign it and I'll send out. So there is options to, get these things, even if I am not physically available, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and I just want to let people know this is the preferred way. Yes, if they want to really get something
Yeah, buy
historic,
it from me. Yeah.
buy it from you. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
The
you.
Gen X con is going to keep moving, but by no means will be kind of like this is just an amazing opportunity. So thank you so much for participating and really volunteering your time. You're a treasure to
Thank
have in
you.
our community.
Thank
So
you.
have a great day.
You too.